fix on what's going on and just give us the segments.
Okay, thank you, Ali Khan.
Pleasure.
As you said, the real estate sector has been growing over the past decade, and 10 years ago it was very young here in Kenya. The market was just starting out growing, and we saw very high returns. Developers and investors were able to recoup very high returns years back, and right now, as of 2019, we're saying the sector is softening. We're seeing decreasing yields across all sectors in real estate, that is the office sector.
Decreasing yields, you mean the income that a landlord is getting is going lower? Is that what you mean?
The rate of return.
The rate of return,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
So that's also a yield basis, right?
Yes, okay. Yield basis.
Okay.
So they are declining, and across all sectors. So there's retail, there's office, and also some parts of residential. We're seeing declining yields. In residential, we're saying there's a huge deficit, of which it's actually true. Yes. There's a huge housing deficit, but then it's in the lower, middle, and the low end income sectors. Which is what the government's trying to address. Which is what the government is trying to address, because private developers have sort of left out that area in the... If the government addresses it, will, somebody was telling me, but Ali Khan, it'll bring a lot of price pressure, more price pressure on property real estate, because the pricing there will be a lot more reasonable. Is that true? The thing is, they're going to do this with the help of private developers. So it's not going to be purely a governmental thing, because they're looking to, even the ongoing projects like the recently launched Park Road project, it's between the government and a private developer, because private developers are the ones who have the development capability. So whatever returns are going to be recouped from that project, also the private sector is going to get into that pie, something from that pie. So residential, just repeat what you're seeing it is as soft, but not super soft yet. Not super soft, yes, because in sectors like retail, the retail sector in Kenya, yes, we're saying we have mini malls, but the mini malls are actually just in Nairobi and within Nairobi. If you go outside Nairobi, there are no malls, probably 1 or 2 in Mombasa, or 3, 1 or 2 in Kiambu, 1 or 2 in Eldoret. So outside Nairobi, so what you're saying is there's an oversupply of retail space in the capital, but not necessarily in these faster growing other areas. Yes, exactly. So where, if you were sitting there and I was giving you a check and saying I want to invest, what would be your prime targets for that kind of investment outside Nairobi? For that kind of investment, you're going to look at, I would need to look at maybe the economic, how those counties are performing. Counties like Mombasa and Kiambu, they have a very high GDP per capita, which means the people there have a lot of purchasing power, spending power. So if you go and, but then the problem is in Kenya, Kenyans are sort of aligned to that informal retail mentality. So formal retail is still having an issue at penetration, because actually in Kenya, the research shows that the formal penetration rate is about 30 to 40%. That's what Mr. Kimani said, 33%, up from 26%. Yeah, so it's growing, but it's still very low compared to markets like South Africa, which has a penetration rate of about 60%, and developed markets, they're definitely way higher than 60%. Let me ask you another question. I mean, if you look at e-commerce, right? I mean, I lived in London for many years. Today, the high street in lots of parts of England is dead, right? Because of e-commerce. No one is going to, like in the old days, you go up and down the high street, you go to your supermarket, you go here. It's not like that anymore. And one of the biggest challenges is that what to do with the high street economy. Similarly, I think in the US, they're finding that. Is that a trend that you think is coming here, or is some years away? And, is that a potential problem for commercial and mall-based investments? So the thing is, e-commerce is definitely a key trend in the retail sector in Kenya, with shops like online shops like Jumia, Kilimall, and Rupu, and they're definitely catching on. But for now, we can say it's an immediate problem for retailers right now. We've seen retailers like Naivas and Tuskys trying to go online to cater for the online market who wants to shop online. But I wouldn't say it's immediate competition for local retailers, but it's definitely catching on. Kenyans are yet to catch on to this idea, I think, except for the tech savvy Kenyans, of which it's only few compared to the overall Kenyan
Size of the population.
Yeah, people still prefer to physically shop.
Yes.
Yes. So, but it will definitely catch on years to come as the digital economy grows.
But we've seen a lot of volatility in the retail space, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the demise of, or practical demise of Nakumatt. We've seen
Yeah.
a lot of change.
Yeah.
But whenever I go into these shopping malls, they seem to be offering me the same thing wherever I'm going. There doesn't seem much product differentiation. Is
Yeah.
am I missing something, or would you say I'm just not going to enough of these places?
I think the thing is, in Nairobi, malls are kind of sort of arranging themselves the same way, similar to each other, that is. And like the same, you're going to find the same anchor tenant in the major malls in Nairobi. If you go to the Hub. If you go to Carrefour, if you go to Garden City, you're going to find the same anchor tenants, of which they're still offering the same products. And I think that's because the retail sector, as I said, it hasn't grown as much, to the point that developers are actually coming to facing the truth that they have to differentiate themselves so that they can make good returns. It's still growing, and that day will come when developers are actually starting to differentiate themselves. But as of right now, because like say we have about three international retailers in Kenya across
Carrefour.
Yeah, Carrefour, ShopRite, and Game.
Yes.
Yeah. So
in the supermarket space.
So right now, and then developers are trying to like the spaces that were initially occupied by Nakumatt and now they are empty. So they have these three international retailers to choose from, and because they know that if they bring an international retailer, it will bring in more footfall, because again, Kenyans, they like the idea of shopping from a foreign.
Is that true? Is that a characteristic of us?
It's definitely the truth.
Yes.
Yeah, so they are increasing footfall actually. So if you know as a developer you're going to get Carrefour or Game or ShopRite, then you know it's a definite attraction for footfall. So you only have these three options to choose from. So that means then you and the next mall are going to be offering the same kind of product. And you see the same things with clothing shops and all these other kinds of shops. Food chains, they're still the same. Burger
The
King,
food chains are
Subway,
expanding very fast.
Yes.
That seems to me a good business, because our eating habits have changed.
Yeah.
And they've got the good price point. Yes.
So it's something that is also very catching on. And then the idea of eating from a shop that is originally from the US or from any other developed country, it's exciting. So people are actually demanding
So what you're describing is an experiential thing.
Yes.
Our people want to feel that they could be in London or New York and they're having the same thing.
Yes.
Is that what makes the difference?
Yes, and actually that's a good thing for the retail market in Kenya, because now these retailers, just recently we saw Mango setting up shop in Westgate.
Yes.
And Mango is a very famous or popular clothing shop, and Kenyans have always wanted to shop from such shops. So now that they are in demand, they know that they're being demanded in a country like Kenya, then they want to come and set up shop. And so if we have, that's the reason why now developers have that niche to come to develop, so that now these foreign retailers can come and set up shop, because then if again we don't have malls that cater to their needs, and because they're international, they create demand for top-notch kind of space. So you just don't build just any kind of mall, so they have to have all the facilities that they're used to in the developed countries. So for developers, they have that opportunity to cater to these international retailers.
Let's go to commercial. And I was doing an interview with Al Jazeera, and I was there on the 14th floor. I was looking at Upper Hill, and that whole landscape has changed so dramatically. But when I was speaking to a few people, they said, Ali Khan, a lot of these buildings are just not full. They're at below 50%. There is a surplus of commercial office space. Somebody estimated 5.5 million square feet. I mean, we've seen this before, and I suppose that's the way a market is. It goes up, boom, bust, and then goes up again. But tell us what's happening in the commercial sector, because it seemed to me also, the insurance companies had piled into real estate, right? They'd gotten disillusioned with the stock market. They all flooded in. So could there be an accident here that could happen on these balance sheets, or what do you make of it? Do you agree with the oversupply?
Yes, actually, according to our research, the current oversupply in the office sector is estimated at 5.2 million square feet, 5 million square feet, and that was as at Q1 2019. So we're seeing a lot of office spaces coming up, and that's because, again, we're saying the Kenyan economy is expanding. 2018 expanded by 6.3%. Foreign multinational firms are constantly coming in. SMEs are growing. So developers are actually constantly building office space, trying to cater for these people. But then again, now it's come to that point where supply has outstripped demand. So we have an oversupply. But then this is in markets like select commercial nodes, like Upper Hill,
yes,
where everywhere is an office building, literally, in CBD, places like Westlands. But then you find that there are still markets that are in demand for office space, places like Dikiri.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an office node, but then you don't find as many office spaces. But then it's a very high-end kind of market. And then areas like Karen. So yes, there's an oversupply, but then again, there's still those select markets, because there's still this group that is demanding office space. That is the multinational firms, the growing SMEs, and yeah.
Did devolution help this whole process? I mean, you know, if you look outside Nairobi and outside Mombasa, do we have fast-growing cities where you would be recommending clients look at? It's not mainstream, it's not like Nairobi, and risk-adjusted maybe. You're better off looking at these, Nakuru, for example. Where would you, as Saiton, be recommending?
So there's definitely not as much supply in counties outside Nairobi, and the reason why Nairobi thrives as an office node is because it's known as a regional hub.
Yes.
It's not Nakuru or Eldoret that are known as regional hubs. It's Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. Actually, GLL, the real estate consultancy firm, listed Nairobi as top 10 dynamic cities in the world.
Yes.
So it's in the ranks of London and New York in terms of being dynamic. So there's that reason for why Nairobi's office market is always growing. But then again, because of devolution, we are seeing business now going back to the grassroots levels, and then there's no office space to cater for. There's no supply to cater for that incoming business for counties. But yeah, we're seeing office buildings coming up in places like Eldoret, also Mombasa, areas like Kiambu. So devolution has kind of also devolved the office sector down to the county levels, but it's still growing at a slow pace.
Credit. You know, for a long time, the banks were availing credit to developers. Money was not cheap, but it was available.
Yeah.
Is it still the case? Because I speak to lots of people who say, the banks are not keen on increasing their real estate risk at the moment, given the overall market conditions. Give us a feel of what the liquidity situation is like at the moment.
So currently, the real estate sector is having that that challenge with the financial environment, and because of the interest rate cap law, we're seeing banks having tighter lending practices, especially towards the private sector. As of April 2019, we're seeing the private sector credit growth came in at 4.9%, and previously, like say from 2013 to 2018,
it was like
the average was like double digit. Yes, it was a double digit.
So that tells us there's a credit squeeze.
Yes. So that's a key, and considering real estate is a very capital intensive sector, so that's definitely a challenge both for developers, because now they're not able to complete their building activity.
They're not getting the same offtake.
Yes, they're not getting the same offtake, because then offtakers are not also accessing this finance. So there's that issue of uptake and not supply being just remaining in the market. Yeah, so there's still that issue, but then we're hoping for the case of offtake, actually, now that the government has launched the KMRC, we're hoping that is going to improve the mortgage market.
This is the Mortgage Guarantee Bank.
Yes, the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company. So we expect that is going to improve the mortgage market in Kenya, and we're saying that home buyers are going to be able now to buy these houses. Yes, to afford these houses. Yes.
So now, what's your take? Because when I look in the newspaper, there are always lots of properties for sale now. Some banks are putting them up for auction. I think today's paper had something about an Athi River 2 billion project. How long is it going to take to work this out of the system, in your mind?
So we're saying that oversupply is one of the key issues in real estate right now. So what we expect to see is developers scaling back on putting out more supply into the market. Yes. So spaces like sectors like office and retail, and also the high-end residential markets, we expect to see reduced supply. And then once that kind of takes back a setback, so people are going to be able to finish the current stock, and then now prices are going to pick up. Yes, because it's a cycle, as we said before. But then there's those markets like, say, residential, where low end there's still not enough supply because demand is like 2 million houses, and it's growing annually at about 200,000 units. So we expect developers are going to now focus into such markets where there's still opportunity. And then in office sector, actually the opportunity is in, again, those undersupplied markets like Kikiri, and also concepts such as serviced offices, because they're still
that's
gaining
taken
traction.
off, hasn't it? I mean, I remember there wasn't one, and then suddenly, boom.
So right now it's doing well. Serviced apartments, serviced offices, they're doing well because they're not as much as the basic or the normal kind of real estate properties. And also things like mixed-use developments. Right now there's...
give us an example of a good mixed-use development.
Mixed-use developments are like Garden City, which has both office, it has retail, it has residential, it has all those components of real estate. So there's that demand where people are actually, as they incline more towards the convenient lifestyle, where they want to live, work and play within the same environment. So there's that demand for mixed-use developments. And again, there are not as many in Kenya. So that market is still catching up, and actually mixed-use developments offer better returns compared to when a real estate property is just for sole use. So office within an MUD will yield better, residential will yield better, because they are able to attract premium prices for that one-stop shop kind of services.
When I spoke to Edwin last, he said, we put a lot of work into researching what are the best spots to pick. So why don't you talk us through some of the site-on developments you've got out there and the reasoning behind it? There was a lot of negative comment, and then I saw a tweet from him saying, actually we are selling out of a lot of our property because we've done our hard work, we've done our research. Define for us what you're doing and how you as an organization are navigating what are quite tricky waters.
So as a real estate firm, we started our projects about 2015, 2016. Our first project to complete was Amara in Karen.
Yes.
And that was...
high-end residential.
It's a high-end residential informed by research, because Karen is one of, among the few high-end areas that we have in Nairobi, that is Karen, Runda, areas like Tisuru, and such, Lokabete. So among all those high-end areas, Karen is one of the top markets in demand because of infrastructure. It offers institutions in terms of school. It has very high-end schools.
There's a lot of schools, right?
Wealthy people's children. It has shopping facilities, which is an experience that wealthy people want to experience when they settle down. So Karen is one of those areas that are high demand. So you're also
doing another one now in Karen as well?
We have another project called Applewood and also another called C2.
Okay.
So
but all at the high-end price point, is it still, or?
Amara and Applewood are high-end. C2, I would put it in the upper middle.
Okay.
Segment.
Then quite near where I live, which is down the Kiambu Road, you have something on the bypass.
Yes.
And you are bullish about Kiambu. You're saying it has the best per capita GDP. So tell us how that's done.
That, I think you're talking about the REIT, which is right along the northern bypass on the Ridgeway side. So again, that's because we expect demand to be brought in by the fact that it's actually right along the Northern Bypass. Ridgeways is just starting to relax its zoning regulations. Normally, it used to be a low-rise area, so there isn't much high-rise developments in that area. So that attracts buyers because it's serene. It's close to markets like Runda, which is high-end. So there's that aspect of security and association with Runda. It's close to shopping facilities. Those along Kembo Road and CBD to rivers, things like to rivers. So it has a lot to offer in terms of when you are an investor. It's going to be a mixed-use development again. It's going to have residential, it has hospitality, and has a commercial component. So there is that live, work, and play component. Yeah.
And those are the main developments you've got at the moment, because there were
we also have the Alma in Rwaka.
Yes.
Which is actually, we're going to hand over phase 1 this week or next week.
How many units have you got in that phase?
Phase 1 is about 100 and something units. Not very sure. But then we're going to it's 100% sold out phase 1.
Okay.
So again, that was also informed by
and that was recently a handover. So you've had buyers in the last few months.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's quite a statement, a positive statement in a weak market, that there is demand for that, right?
Yeah, there's demand in Rwaka especially. It's a satellite town, and it has been experienced. There's a lot of demand for houses in Rwanda because, especially from the young working class in Nairobi and the growing middle class, so they want an area which is affordable, which is close to their working nodes, and also offers good quality houses. So that's the opportunity in Rwaka.
And then it's surely all these roads also matter, right?
Yes, there's the Northern Bypass, there's the Western Bypass, so there's in the recently completed Westlands Link Road.
Yes.
Right now you can access Rwaka directly from Oyakwe just using one route.
Oh, really?
Yes, the Westlands Link Road.
Yes.
So it passes through Kisuru.
Yes,
and
I know that.
Yes, so that road. And then, so such infrastructure improvements are creating demand.
Yes.
Yeah, for the area, and investors are able to recoup good returns.
So let's now imagine you're an investor. What would you be advising that investor to look at this point in time in this market? Are there opportunities to buy things cheap? You know, anyone who's got liquidity probably gets a better price right now. That's how a market functions.
Yes.
So what would you be saying to people? Is this the right time if you've got cash to be stepping in, or would you be saying wait a little bit longer, or don't worry about conditions, just pick the right spot, you'll do okay? What are you telling them?
So the thing is, actually, as you mentioned, right now we're seeing developers, I think we saw Housing Finance giving offers for the houses.
Yes,
just
Comarock.
Yes, and a couple of the other projects. So, and other developers are doing the same thing.
Yes.
So right now, if you've been wanting to buy a house, then definitely right now is the right time to buy a house because the prices are lower. And then in case you're an investor and you're seeking to trade, then you sell it when the market stabilizes, yes. So right now, I would say it's the best opportunity for you to buy a house because the prices are lower. But in terms of opportunity across sectors, as I mentioned, for the commercial sector, it's in the undersupplied areas, and for concepts such as serviced offices. For retail, the opportunity is in counties outside Nairobi. You don't have to go very far. You can just stay within the Nairobi metropolitan area, where you have areas like Machakos, Kiambu, Murang'a. They still offer good opportunities really because they are undersupplied. And
if we look at population, we're going to continue expanding, right?
Yes, so the population is constantly growing, and yes, so there's still that opportunity for retail. For residential, as we said, the opportunity is in the lower mid and the low end to cater for those people who don't earn as much. So because we're saying the high end right now is sort of oversupplied because the supply is way higher than what is being demanded.
At the high end.
Yes.
There's too much supply.
They still demand, but then supply has surpassed that demand.
Yes.
Yes. So for residential, we're saying the opportunity is in those low-end markets and also within MUDs, because residential within a MUD where you're offering people other things other than just houses, then they yield better.
Last year, a lot of these Dubai-based companies, every time I looked up, I would be being invited to a presentation, and Dubai had its own issues and a lot of extra supply. But I had a friend who said to me, Ali Khan, if you buy in Dubai, your yield is nearly double what it is in Kenya. Is that correct? Saying that our yield on our rental income, we've accepted a very low yield because we were historically getting good capital gains. Is it, do you feel that or not?
I'm not sure about the Dubai market, but then yield is a product of your initial investment and the rental income that you're getting. Receiving. So if your rental income is good, if the initial investment is low, but then you're still able to attract good rental income, then your rent yield should be very high. So in a market like Dubai, I would say it's still expensive compared to Nairobi. I don't expect houses in Dubai are cheaper than Nairobi.
No, I was shocked because some of them, these apartments, what's that very tall building called, the very famous
Burj Khalifa?
Which was Burj Dubai before Burj Khalifa. I saw a 2-bed apartment for $660,000, right? That's 66 million. That's an iconic building for 66. So I was just, so I think the price correction there was quite sharp overall.
Okay, so for such a project then, and if you're buying for 66 million and you're able to definitely get good rental income, and Dubai being a really popular holiday destination, it's attracting all kinds of wealthy people from all over the world who are willing to pay premium rents to stay in Dubai. So yeah, definitely, probably then the rent yield is much better than Nairobi.
Now, you as Saiton have a yield product, don't you, where investors can give you money and you use investor money to finance some of your products, the money market fund. Just tell everybody what sort of interest rates you're able to pay on those.
So we have 2 investment products, and we have more, but I'll just say about 2. So we have the CHOS, which is the Saiton High Yield Solution. The minimum investment is about 100,000, and then you get a return. You're able to recoup an interest rate of about 16% per annum. So
and that's more you trying to disintermediate the banks, is it? And this way you're saying to people, don't go and get 4% on deposit, come to us.
Because the banks will give you definitely lower interest rates, but they're still getting really the better part of the returns that wherever they go to invest in, they keep the better part of their returns. So with the 16%, we are giving you the full 16%, but then we're still able to get our own profits. So we invest in, say, private equity, we invest in real estate, all these areas that are guaranteed to give us the best returns that we can get from the market. We also have the Saiton Money Market Fund, which is offering probably about the best interest rates in Kenya right now. The interest rates range between 10% to 11%. So for that, it's for any investor, because it's really the requirements are really low, so you need only about 5,000 shillings to invest. And then,
into the money market fund.
So you make monthly top-ups after that, but then the yield is really good because it's about 11%, and compared to the CHOS yield, it's not that far off.
The stock market made a big song and dance about the REIT market. I remember, REITs. But then we had one REIT, am I wrong?
We only have one, the Stanley for
What happened there?
The thing is, a REIT in Kenya hasn't been accepted as well. So the investors and just generally the Kenyan population, they haven't accepted the REIT market.
They want their own bricks and mortar.
Yes, they don't want their own traditional real estate kind of product. But then it's catching on. The Stanley Fahari is still surviving up to now since 2015. So 4 years, it's still trading. But then again, the fact that we only have one, it says a lot about the market, and a lot needs to be done.
Why are people not doing more REITs?
I guess, as we said, it's the Kenyan population. We are traditional in our mentality. But now what we need to do is definitely now creating awareness. For the real estate experts, for the government, it's to create awareness about the REIT market. And I think the thing with the REIT is that the yields didn't used to be as good before. Actually, the yield just improved this year last year rather. Before it was about 5%, and they're investing in commercial properties. And then at that time, the brick and mortar commercial office, the yield was about 10%. Same case for retail. The REIT, which is also investing in these markets, was giving a yield of about 5%.
So why would you do that?
Yeah, so why would you do that? But right now, actually, the REIT yield is about 8%.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
When T-bill rates have come down quite a bit.
Sorry?
T-bill rates have come down quite a bit. 8% doesn't look bad.
Yeah, 8% doesn't look bad. And then again, the office yield right now is about 7.8%.
Yes.
The retail yield is about 8.2%. So the retail yield actually and the REIT yield are about the same right now. So right now is about a good time to start investing in REITs. And then the government is saying about something about I think it was proposed in the Finance Bill 2019 to reduce or to remove completely the income tax for REIT companies.
Yes.
So that means better returns.
That would gross up the yield.
Yes, that will definitely improve the yield because it means better returns for them. Yeah.
Okay, before we finish up, let's say we got some cash out, what would be your supreme conviction trade that you can tell our smart investors, say this is the smartest trade that I have got to recommend?
I guess it just depends with the financial position of an individual or an investor is at that point, and whatever kind of sector that you'd like to invest in. Maybe there's an investor who really desires to invest in commercial, and then there's another one who's just about residential. So if in case you want to invest in residential, in terms of yields, the yields are better in commercial. So if you're looking at yields purely and you're not sentimentally inclined to any sector, you just about the yields. Commercial sector is offering better yields, about 7 to 8% across the office and retail sectors. Right now, the residential yield are highest in satellite towns.
Yes.
So areas like Raka and also low mid and suburbs like Langata, where demand is still high and you're able to attract good rental rates. So yeah, I would advise you to invest in such markets.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us a deep dive into the real estate sector. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This was The Smart Investor. This is Metropol TV, the first 24-hour business news channel here in Kenya and East Africa. My name is Alikan Sachu, and you can join us between the hours of 8 and 9 p.m. every day, every weekday. Thank you for watching.